You are listening to the Joyce Aldrich Show from Toronto, Canada, Arts and Entertainment Edition.
There's a hole in my heart. It's where the pain gets in. There's a hole in my heart. It's where the pain gets in. When I was young, that hole was small. I didn't know the hole would grow. There's a hole in my heart. It's where the world gets in. There's a hole in my heart. It's where the world gets in. I try to keep the world at bay, but I swear the world will have its way. It sounds like a dreadful curse for sure. It seems like a thing that I'd avoid. The strangest fact that I can share is that I enjoy this hole in my heart. There's a hole in my heart. It's where the love gets in. There's a hole in my heart. It's where the joy gets in. I know the joy will come with pain, and it's a price I'm good to pay. I know the love will come with loss. No other way. It's just because there's a hole in my heart. There's a hole in my heart. There's a hole in my heart. There's a hole in my heart.
There's a hole in my heart. And of course, that is by my guest today, and that would be the English assassin. That would be Philip Solman. And yeah, if you don't know pain, you don't know joy. You don't know joy, you don't know pain. And his music hails back to a lot of the 80s sounds. A lot of artists are actually hailing back there to the early 2000s, 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, and even 50s. So where music sounded like music, maybe, you know. Anyway, so he's been called a combination of the late period Bowie and Scott Walker. And I want to just welcome you, Philip, to the Joyce Aldrich Show. So nice to have you here.
Thank you, Joyce. It's so lovely to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah, your music, you've been in the music business for a while. And
Yes.
yes, and and you're from Coventry, England.
Yeah, that was my home for most of the first 40-something years of my life. So, yeah, I was very fortunate. The timing of my birth was good for me because at the age of 15, Coventry became the epicenter of music with the explosion of two-tone records, the specials, the beat, or the English beat, as North Americans would know them,
Yes.
and all that punk/ska music that's still played today on the west coast of North America, a lot of it. So that started when I was 15, which was a great time to be sneaking into clubs illegally.
Oh, A lot of people did that.
Yeah.
I myself, when my mother was a singer MC at the Brunswick House, for some reason I'd end up there when I was 15. So I don't know. It's a thing. It's a thing in the
Yeah.
entertainment.
Yeah.
But it's not
It's good.
it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. So you ended up in Vancouver, and a lot of things changed for you around 9/11.
Oh,
For
yes.
for you, for everybody, for the world. The world
Of
stopped.
course. Yeah.
It just ground to a halt.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. It was a tough time, but it became, and as in personally for me, it was a tough time, but it became a brilliant time. It was a tough time before 9/11 because my marriage was failing. It had been a good long marriage. I think we'd been together about 16 years in
Mm-hmm.
total, but the last 18 months were tough for both of us, and we tried counseling and different things, but in the end, it was not going to work.
Yeah.
And I think we finally separated. It's got to be August 2001,
Mm-hmm.
and I needed a break. I was stuck in the house, basically just crying, and
Oh.
it was well, yeah,
It's
because
not. Well,
it's been a good, yeah,
yeah, and it's like an amputation. You know, I'm Jewish, and I had a Jewish divorce. You never want to have to go through one of those. They're very emotional. They're like so ancient.
okay,
It's like a 3,000 year ceremony. You know that they must have done in Babylon or something. But you know,
wow,
oh, no, it is. It's like with a feather. It's hard to explain. Anyway, but a quill pen. Anyway, but the thing is, yeah, it's like an amputation. It really
yeah,
is.
yeah.
It's surgery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what I knew is I thought a breakaway would be good. I loved Greece. My wife and I used to go to Greece a lot, but I knew I
Mm,
loved it just for me. The Greek people are so warm and welcoming, as well
yeah.
as it being gorgeous in many places. And I recall spotting a little flyer that had fallen out the newspaper years before that
Hmm.
for some reason was still under piles of junk on my desk. I worked at home and my desk was covered in paper.
Yeah.
And I found this flyer and I went off to do songwriting and short story writing and music appreciation. And there was all these different courses you could do on a little Greek island.
Mm,
And I told my brother, no relationships for at least 6 months.
good idea.
Yeah, that didn't last. But
Oh,
anyway,
there you go.
I know, but the point was within, just about a week or 2 weeks before we were heading off, 9/11 happens.
Mm,
And I considered not going, not out of fear, because I was old enough at that point, 37, to understand that flying after 9/11 is probably the safest time you're ever going to fly.
yeah,
Um,
lots of security.
Absolutely. But it just kind of seemed frivolous to go on holiday. It just seemed odd. But in the end, I thought that's ridiculous. That's, me
Mm,
not going on holiday doesn't change anything. And anyway, why would you change your plans?
mm,
That means the terrorists kind of won.
that's
So
right.
yeah. So I went into a short story writing class. It was the songwriting I really went for, and that was lovely. But went into the short story writing classes too, as well. And then there were probably 12 or 13 of us with an Irish author doing the class called Claire Boylan. I didn't know her, but many of the people there did.
Hmm.
They were more literary readers than I. And I met Debbra Mikaelsen
Hmm.
from Vancouver. And strangely, of the 12 or 13 in the class, four of us are now married, as in there are two couples that
Wow,
happened from that class.
that's really cool.
It is really
It's
cool. And
good.
it was not planned. It
Go
was,
to
and
Greece.
yeah, I
Take-
think both of us said if we'd known that we were going to fall for somebody, we probably would have not gone. It's sort of like it's good that you don't know the future because it would have been terrifying.
Mm,
But yeah, I met Deborah and we have lovely friends, Neil and Gay, who lived in London and Dublin and now live together in Dublin. And we get on to Zoom with them quite regularly and share our music and our writing because we're all still doing the creative stuff, which is fabulous.
yeah,
But
well,
yeah,
we'll have
I
to have your wife's wife on here with her music. Then she's writing music, or what was she
no,
doing?
no, no. She's a writer of the literary type.
Well,
So
that's
yeah,
wonderful. That would work here. Absolutely. So we'll talk about that again. We'll
okay.
definitely that would be lovely. Yeah, you had a pretty chunky hiatus from writing music, though.
Oh yeah.
What happened there? Because you
Yeah.
moved to Vancouver, and then what? Yeah.
Well, yeah, moved to Vancouver. I mean, actually, for 4 years, Deborah and I had a long distance relationship, and that was probably a wise move, being as we were both out of long-term relationships. So I think, we both recognized that it might be sort of like a bounce if we just got together. So it was good for both of us. So
Yes.
it was challenging because I was in Coventry and she's in Vancouver, but hey,
Well,
what's money?
absence
Yeah,
makes the heart grow fonder.
that might be true. I mean, I also would
Maybe.
say that low cost, long distance telephone is really, really helpful.
Yes.
And we would generally be on the phone about 2 to 3 hours a day.
Mhm.
And so we didn't miss each other as much as we would. And I would take any opportunity I could. I had more flexibility with work. So I would take any opportunity I could to just grab a cheap flight and fly to Vancouver. And that was fabulous. But yeah, in the end, 2005, we decided it was time to be together. So Vancouver beat Coventry. Sorry, Coventry, it wasn't much of a competition.
Oh, no.
And,
No.
and again, it's not just trying to be mean. Coventry, I love the people there. They're my people and my family and stuff like that. But, Vancouver's on the coast with those mountains and water.
And liking your kind of music.
Yeah. That probably wasn't even in my mind, really. It was really just, wanting to be with Deborah full time. And it was like, where? And bless her, she asked me, she said, would that be in Coventry or Vancouver? And I said,
Oh,
Vancouver, of course. And I think she breathed a sigh of relief for two reasons. It wasn't that she didn't like coming over to visit me in the UK and like my family, but she was very close to her family, who actually were in the Okanagan.
beautiful.
In British Columbia. Yeah.
How
And
can you leave that? Sorry, Coventry
I know.
again.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I think that's
Coventry.
the point.
Yeah.
And so it was easier for all reasons. It really wasn't a choice. It was lovely to be able to come to Canada.
It is.
And
But,
now I am a proud Canadian.
oh, you've got your citizenship. Welcome
Oh,
aboard.
yes.
Oh, wow, that's
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
So happy.
I swore allegiance to Queen Elizabeth when she was still around, which is kind of odd, being as nobody asked me to ever swear allegiance to her when I was in the UK.
Well, we were born into it, It's a
I
little
know,
different.
yeah.
We were just the Commonwealth over here, just a bunch of commoners. We have to remind ourselves every so often where we are and who we pledge allegiance to. Oh yeah, no, but but disasters seem to spur you to creativity or something, some adventure, inspiration, because COVID hit and
Yep. Yeah, it was we'd sold a business which had kept us busy for 12 years, which was why I really hadn't been doing any music.
right.
We moved to the Okanagan from Vancouver. So and we did it all. I mean, we moved 3 days before everything actually started to close down. So it was
Fortuitous in your way.
it was astoundingly lucky, quite frankly,
yeah.
for us. I mean, we know it.
Yeah, I hate
We turned out,
I hate to use the word fortuitous, but it was for
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, we managed to turn our lives upside down at the point when people were having their lives turned upside down, whether they wanted or not. So it didn't hit us quite as hard, I don't think, emotionally or in any way. But I had planned to think, of different businesses I was going to start in the Okanagan after we'd sold one. And of course, hell, pandemic. It's like, okay, I'm not starting those businesses. What am I going to do apart from work on a house and work on a garden and all that? And so it was a chance to get back to music, which has always been there in
Yes.
my life. Probably since I was about 9, I would say. It's been one of my biggest loves but mostly pop music of different ilks, pop, rock, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
dance music. And making it and being in bands but yeah, with the pandemic, I could make my little studio in the spare bedroom, and with the wonders of new technology,
Oh, Pro Tools and everything. Oh.
absolutely, I know, and I get to just put out these songs and release them around the world, which for somebody of my age, and I am now 60.
I'm 69. I'm 60. I get you.
Yeah, it is. I know that people growing up in this is just how it is, but it was a big deal to record our music when I was a young man doing that, and it
Oh
was
my
a
goodness.
big deal to get it into a format so that anybody could hear it, to get it on the radio or anything.
Yes.
It's yeah. So I do love this new technology, even though you get lost in the morass because there's millions of people there. At least you can do it now. There's no gatekeepers really to stop you getting your stuff out into the world.
Well, the same with me. I'm sitting here at my dining room table doing radio, really.
Yeah,
I actually have a better board than I had when I was on radio on the station I was working at.
fabulous.
Amazing. I got a Rodecaster 2 Pro, and I would highly recommend that to anyone who wants to do podcasting. It's amazing. So yeah, so but you talk about the age here, and let's talk about that, because your music, your topics, what you write about, and like let's talk about the first song.
Yeah.
There's a hole in my heart. And it does take a 180-degree turn in there, but that's life. Life is a 180-degree turn. You don't know what's going to hit you. And it's all about feeling life. A lot of people turn themselves off it. Not everybody. Most people feel life. But, it's that whole thing to live, to have something to live for. And to go through all those ups and downs. But the thing is, that when you're younger, there's like actually when I go to listen to a lot of younger musicians, and I love the music, it's great. But there's a lot. This is a time with the hurting songs and the breakup songs and the that all of that kind of thing. And I don't know what I'm doing songs and all that, and I love them. They're great. But when you get to 60. Or in that, I guess say maybe over 40 or whatever that age is. Maybe when you're younger too. Everyone, they're old souls or people who see life very clearly. Not all of us. None of us really do. But there's a wisdom that comes into it, and saying, well, you know what, where you had your hands on all the time and trying to control your life, you step back a couple of steps and say, is that all there is? And
certainly for me, when I was probably probably in my teens, late teens, early 20s, it did occur to me for some reason to ask myself, am I a bit of a robot in terms of emotions and feelings? I didn't seem to get upset when other people would be upset. And it was just something I noticed about myself, and I was a bit concerned. Not really, but it was like, oh.
But you noticed it when you were young, so that says a lot about you.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't notice that,
No, I asked. I think I had have a very close relationship with my mum. She talks about a lot of stuff to me, philosophical ideas and life stuff, and that's lovely, and it gets me to ask questions. Excellent. And that was one of them. I recognized it, but then in my first marriage, and it was probably before we were even married, in my first relationship, serious long-term relationship, there was a time way before we ended up divorcing, but where we hit a really tough patch, and we actually went to counseling then before we were married, and it helped and it got us through, which is why we tried counseling later on.
Sure.
But the physical pain of not being able to, thinking you can't fix this.
Yeah.
I remember feeling it, and it's still here with me. And it is painful, but even after that, I was able to look at it and say, hey, Phil, you're not a robot. You do have emotions just like everybody else. It's just that, maybe you'd never really loved somebody or in that way, or lost somebody in that way that meant that much. So, and this was where I thought I was going to lose this person who was everything to me.
Yeah.
And it hurt so much. And that's what It's a Hole in My Heart is kind of about. It's like, you discover there's a hole in your heart, and the pain gets in and the world gets in, and this hole can get bigger as you grow.
Yes.
But it's where the joy and the love gets in. And if you have joy and love, you will have pain and loss. And that's just how life is.
Exactly. And in our age group, I know I get told, don't live in the past, Mom, specifically by my children, because I'm divorced, and same kind of thing. And you can't always live with the one you love. You really can't, necessarily. No. It doesn't always work out. But, you have regrets and things like that. So that's what happens. And sometimes your present is a direct directly influenced, of course, by your past, and maybe
Yes.
more so than not. And it's hard to let go. It's hard to let go, but we do. But it's also good to remember that you do have these feelings and that kind of thing. Everything. So yeah. So why don't we play another song? Your songs are so interesting.
Thank you.
They're so interesting.
No, but
No, but they are interesting. They're thought provoking and they're edgy, which I like. But it's like, did he really say that?
Yeah, I love many writers, songwriters, musicians, whatever, and some of them I love write songs that have lyrics that have no meaning or very little meaning. But I've always enjoyed songs that have something going on lyrically that makes you want to dig under the hood a little bit. So yeah, I like lyrics that generally take a listener somewhere, and I know they're not going to take the listener exactly where I went, and that's great. But I do like there to be some point to the lyric.
Yeah, well, there's one that has actually gone back to Coventry, and it was charting at the top of the Hills FM radio chart in Coventry. So the boy from Coventry who left when he was still a boy, right? You're still a boy.
Yeah. Still a Coventry boy.
Artists never grow up. We're the children. We never grow up, and thank goodness we should never grow up. We should still have awe and be amazed by life in some way or another. So you kind of help. But there enough of me. Is there enough of me? That song that really hit me too, because you look at life and think, is there enough of me? Can I talk about that? Give it a little bit of the backstory of this, because I'm going to play it next. And
yeah,
I was really deeply affected by this song.
I so often with my songs, they start, not always, but often start with a little lyrical line or a little lyrical question or something, and is there enough of me for this world just popped into my head. And I don't know why, but I don't care to ask why anymore. I just write it down and keep writing. And I don't want to explain it too much, because I do think this is a bit more ephemeral in terms of what it can mean to people.
It's experiential. Yeah.
Very much so.
Mm-hmm,
But I also grew up, as well as listening to two-tone and all that stuff, that was political, but it was kind of up. I also grew up listening to things like Joy Division and The Cure and the Smiths. So I love a bit of melancholy, and I love a bit of angst. And sometimes, I mean, in my life, there has been melancholy and angst.
Yes.
I'm glad to say that's not where I live now, but creatively, it can feel satisfying to step back into that. And
I agree.
Yeah, touch those feelings again, because it helps you appreciate not being there, quite frankly.
Yes. And sometimes you just need to have those feels.
Yes.
You just need to. It's very grounding in a lot of ways. I don't know how to explain it otherwise.
And I also wanted with this one to touch on some of the stuff, the modern stuff that maybe leads people to the angst and the melancholy and the depression, which, is the social media, the new 24-hour news, all that kind of stuff. So that's in there as well.
Well, the thing about your music, it has a very 80s vibe to it, but with a new twist.
I hope so.
And like I mentioned in the introduction, a lot of the artists who are sending me their music, and I'm talking about artists in their late teens, 20s, 30s, are sending me music that hails back to the 90s, 80s especially, and early 2000s. And they're not liking what the top 40 sounds like. Necessarily. There's a lot of good music out there. Of course there is.
Exactly.
But there's something about, there's a lot of just chords being played behind music, and there's not a lot of musicality even in music. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but there you go. Or using live instruments, or even if you are using instruments that are canned, use good ones, or use things that people can. And your production, I like your productions as well. You do know this yourself?
Yes, because I actually did train in sound engineering long time ago down in London, the UK, and actually worked in radio myself, engineering, before I got a job that actually paid money. I actually worked in radio.
Well, I can understand that. I can hear that. I just wonder.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's play. Is there enough for me? And let people experience it. So sit back and listen to this. This is the English Assassin. We'll talk about your name after. Okay, this is.
Good.
Is there enough of me? The English Assassin.
Is there enough of me for this world? 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 A little part of me is fearful for the future. Not for me per se, but those who are coming after. Another part of me is trying to be strong. But is it good enough? Is it good enough? Is there enough of me for this world? 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 Scrolling screens of doom are eating up our brain cells. The non-stop news machine is spitting out its bile. The talking heads are talking on and on forever, 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 forever. Is there enough of me for this world? Is there enough of me? Is there enough of me for this world? Is there enough of me? Is there enough of me for this world? Is there enough of me? Is there enough of me for this world? Is there enough of me? 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 Is there enough of me?
Is there enough of me? Boy, lots of feels in that, Philip. My goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. That was. It's odd to say it was kind of fun, bellowing into the void as it felt.
Yeah.
But it's that thing as it's true. It's there were times again, I'd probably go back to my very early 20s, probably
Hmm.
late teens,
Hmm.
when I won't say I was ever clinically depressed, but I know I know that burrowing under the covers and not wanting to get out of bed ever again.
Oh.
And well, it's that I think many people deal with that. Lots
Well,
of
there's
people
a lot
obviously
of
have
teenage
clinical
angst,
depression.
yeah, and the
Yeah,
clinical depression, but also a lot of teenagers suffer from it. I think it's part. It's almost part of that transition. The hormones. They say we're not really fully, our brains aren't fully developed till we're 24.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that's going on there to get there, and and circumstances aren't always perfect, as we
oh no,
know. They're never perfect, and
no,
it
no,
can be really bad for a lot of kids, and yeah, it's not easy,
yeah,
and it's not
yeah,
even recognized sometimes, a lot of times until too
for
late.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I think that so just to be able to touch on some of that,
Mm.
it's I suppose it's doing it from a safe distance, let's say, but also putting yourself back into it so that when I am singing like that, it's real.
Yeah.
And it felt good to be able to do that because yeah, there are so many. I'm not going to stand up here and claim that I've got the best voice in the world or anything like that because I never would. But I want to just be able to let my voice be what it is, and hopefully it will resonate with some people. And that's the best I can do.
I'd say your voice is perfect for this music, and
Thank you.
it's warm, and it has strength, and it's a strong voice. I will say it's obviously a very masculine voice, but there's that there, and I know in these days, saying male and female, but it's got strength and a masculine voice that's vulnerable but strong at the same time, and
Thank you.
people need to hear that. And I think that's important. So speaking of that, so what's this Dick Turpin thing with so as I think of Dick Turpin, I'm thinking the English assassin. And I'm thinking, well, and also where the name came from, and also talking about the difference between, perhaps Canadian sensibilité and maybe British insensibilité, and that can take things more on the cuff. A lot. I always enjoyed British humor over Canadian and American anytime. I would always laugh at those shows. And then I'd see some spin-off in America, and I think it's not funny at all. They lost the whole
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
and
There's a lot lost in translation for
like
sure.
sardonic. It's like Monty Python.
Oh
All
yes,
of this kind of stuff. Great stuff. Not afraid to say things and enjoy. Enjoy life, have fun. Like it's yeah,
yes.
it's different
Well,
here.
the name is a fairly simple answer.
Okay.
Um, yeah. I don't know why, but for a while it'd been in my mind if I was going to do anything solo, I was going to be the quiet American, stolen from the book by Graham Greene and a
Oh
film
yeah,
that starred Michael Caine and
I love Michael
oh
Caine. I love him.
yeah, and
Great actor.
and another great actor who's Brendan somebody or other.
Oh
Anyway, he
yeah.
he was the whale in a recent film. But anyway, the film was great. The book was great. They were these kind of spy war type of film and book. So
Mhm.
I thought the Quiet American. I just like that because I just always thought it's a very simple but great name. So before deciding, I did the sensible thing you can do now, and you get online and you search. And I quickly
Mm.
discovered that there was a folk duo called the Quiet Americans. So I thought, okay, that one's out.
Yeah.
And then it was, well, spy novel names. I
Yeah.
just put that in, scrolled through, and up popped, well, I think it's Daniel De Silva, the English Assassin. And I just thought,
Mm-hmm.
oh, yeah, I can't, I just like it. And I like the fact that, yes, I'm English, but now I'm also Canadian. So I'm doing the English Assassin in Canada and North America. Like the English beat became the English beat, even though back in the UK they were just the beat and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So,
That's right. That's right.
and
Well.
also I just know that Assassin, it makes it's sort of like people are going to go, what?
I
So
did. I did when I got your email with your music. I went
yeah,
with a Christmas song on it. I went, what?
yes, I know, I know. So
What the hell?
that was, you know, I've 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 been a salesperson through a big chunk of my life,
Uh-huh.
so I do kind of understand that, a name is really important,
Mm.
and that's why I chose that. I also I thought I'm gonna do probably fairly dark stuff, so it also seemed suitable for the dark stuff. But strangely, I have also done quite a bit of upbeat poppy stuff as well. But I don't care. The Cure did upbeat pop and really grim stuff. So why can't the English Assassin?
Well, of course. And speaking about that, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we were going to talk about the difference between
Oh, yeah.
Coventry and well, England and Canada, British, humor, way of looking at life as opposed to our pie in the sky way of looking at things and saying I'm sorry all the time and it's okay, you know. We're
Yeah.
very, I don't know,
And to be fair, yeah, that's been lovely
we're
because that's been
nice.
part of my life now since 2001, knowing Deborah, coming to Canada, spending time with her and her family and
Hmm.
with Canadian friends and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
That there's the main thing that I kind of picked up on, and this may not be an English Canadian thing. It could be a my part of England
Mm-hmm.
against West Coast thing or whatever, is that I got a sense that people, West Coast Canada, because that's all I really know. I'm sorry to say, much of the rest of Canada, I wouldn't claim to lay any,
Yeah.
knowledge about. Really, is that people don't seem to want to talk about or deal with death very much.
Ah.
And what I mean by that is it's things like, oh, we don't want to have a funeral, let's have a celebration of life. And I'm not in any way questioning how lovely the idea of a celebration of life is.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was growing up, I think the first funeral I went to would have been when I was maybe 8 or 9. And it was again one of those pivotal things
Yes.
in that I saw a whole school turn out for a second cousin's funeral because she died at 15, I believe,
Oh, yeah.
from leukemia.
Yeah.
But it was extremely sad and upsetting, whilst at the same time showing me what love is on a big scale.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then I've been to quite a few funerals since then at different times, friends, family members, all the rest of it. And when Deborah and I have talked about this, I've come to the conclusion that I think funerals exist for a good reason, and that is getting together and being sad communally is generally good for people.
Like we were talking
And
about the melancholy before, is there
yes,
enough of me getting, because you got to get into that. It's closure. It really is closure. You got to cry
yes,
it out. Yeah.
but I think that I just think that my recollection is people would more likely talk about and joke about death,
Mm.
um, and again, these are huge sweeping generalizations, and I'm sure that they don't hold true when you look under the hood. But I felt that you know talking about death should be more normal because it's coming for all of us, whether we
Oh
want to
yeah.
face it or not.
Yeah.
No,
We have an
and
expiry date on us, definitely.
we do. But I also think that knowing that and facing it can help you live a life because
Yes.
you'll prioritize doing things that are truly meaningful and important, I believe, when you understand that it's temporary.
Well, there is
And
that. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, no, and and the obviously death isn't necessarily like something to be happy about. I mean, in some instances it could be if somebody's been suffering, for instance, but in most instances it's very upsetting and very sad. But again, sadness and pain is part of life. Death is part of life.
Hmm.
All of these things we can push them away, but they don't go away.
Well,
So
like
we're
we're
kind
all.
of just fooling ourselves.
Well, yeah. Exactly. We're all just shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic, as the old saying goes, that kind of thing. I forgot what I was going to say before, but it was something like that. But it comes for us. And the thing is, it is important to live life each day. Oh, that was what I was going to say. Yeah, like the saying of live each day as if it were your last, or each moment as if it was your last. Because at one moment, it will be. It absolutely will be.
Yeah, yeah. I also, on the flip side, I will say I'm not personally a fan of bucket lists, the idea of them, unless they truly are deeply things that you want to do. They seem a bit odd to me, but I suppose it's just I'm not made that way. I don't have places I want to visit before I go or stuff like that. But if I did, I know they'd be on the list. But to me, it's just mostly about...
Well, it's everyday life. It's just living everyday life like it has some meaning, not like, oh my gosh, I just got to get through this. And if you do, that's fine. That's something. Okay, but get through it. But to be more cognizant about how precious life is and what you can do with life, helping others, doing things that are meaningful. They don't have to be big things, little things.
No.
Little things. Doesn't have to be a big project,
No, and it's finding meaning in those
and purpose,
small things. Exactly. And there is meaning in the small things. When you have people in your life that you care about and love, or animals that you care about and love, there are small things you can do, and they have meaning.
Exactly. So since we're just talking, we might as well play We're All Gonna. And
you notice that we won't... People have probably got the idea of where We're All Gonna is going because of what we've been talking about. But I didn't want to put that word on it because, again, I'm a salesperson, and I'm just think that more people might listen to it if it's called We're All Gonna instead of the full sentence.
When I first saw it, I didn't know what it was all about. I said, we're all gonna what? And I turned it on, and I played it and went, oh. And all I could think of was the Spaniard that blighted my life. Anyway, if you remember that song, this to me. Okay.
I don't think I do, but that's... you'll have to tell me about that some other time.
After, die diddly die 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 die. He will die. He will die.
Yes.
I'll raise a bunion on his Spanish onion. We're All Gonna by the English Assassin. There we go.
It's in the stars. There's no escaping, no avoiding it. No matter what, it's getting close. It's gonna happen. Could be decades or minutes or hours or now. The one thing above all else that unites us is the one thing nobody can deny. We're all gonna die. 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 Please don't get me wrong. I'm not celebrating. It's just how it is. No negotiating. When we speak the truth, it's so liberating because we know the truth will set us free to live. We're all gonna die. 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 Yell it out the window, sing it at the disco. We're all gonna die. Tell it to Bad Bunny, yeah, it's kinda funny. We're all gonna die. Tell it to Shakira, yeah, it's getting nearer. We're all gonna die. Tell it to the Bieber,
gonna the English assassin, Philip. Yeah, that's quite the song. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get my will and my power of attorney done. That's it. And I haven't got it done yet. I'm 69. I think it's about time. But you got to think about these things though, because you got to
Yes.
remember who you're going to be leaving behind as well. You can't leave a mess.
Yeah, and that's why I've done that, because I agree. I think it's one of the more selfless things you can do is make sure you don't leave a mess behind.
Exactly. I see a quote here on your website, and I will send people to theenglishassassin.com, and your music can be purchased on Bandcamp. It can be streamed on
Thank you.
Spotify, and definitely purchase the music at Bandcamp because they actually pay the musicians, unlike Spotify. So, which is. It's a place to be, but it's not the place to be. So Bandcamp is great. And that would be The English Assassin. Get the music there. But I see this quote, accept the world and life begins, but fight the world will win. And there I saw the quote is by The English Assassin. There you go.
Yeah, that's from the first single that I released as The English
Yes,
Assassin.
A Selfish
It's called-
Pain.
No,
No,
that's
not
actually
Selfish.
from.
Which one is
That's
that from?
Yeah, it's called.
Help me.
It was called "The World Just Is."
Oh, yes. And your music
That's
is...
what. Yeah.
The world just is. Yeah, and I noticed. Sorry, I'm such an interruptus. I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm just looking under your music tab on your website, theenglishassassin.com. That the world just is. Your music is there actually. If they want to purchase it.
Yes, yeah. Most of those they would be purchased from Bandcamp. Yeah,
Yes.
my website. You can listen to all of them on the website.
Yeah.
But yeah, The World Just Is. Again, that was. I did like the lyrics I wrote for that one, but yeah, I have this strong sense from people I know and love that I seem to have an acceptance of how things are. I'm
Right.
not saying I always did, but it's something that as an adult I've just got used to. And I see lots of friends and family who fight against what is, who now I'm not saying that acceptance means you just accept everything as it is and you shouldn't change it.
No.
But it's when you push against reality, when you say, well, that's not fair and that shouldn't be that way.
But it is. Mm-hmm.
But it is.
Mhm.
Now, to me, the thing to do is first accept what is. And when you accept what is, you stop having a continual battle. And you can choose to try and change things. You can change yourself. You can do things in the world. You can do things with family and friends. And that's all great. But step one is accepting what is. And I suppose that's about accepting chaos. Sometimes it's about accepting uncertainty for sure, as in none of us knows the future. I used to think I did when I was quite young. I will quickly want to share with you. This was something I remember
Yes, please.
when I was about 17 or 18. The Cold War between the US and Russia was at its height. And I knew, I didn't just think, I knew I'd be dead in my early 20s at the latest, because I knew World War III was going to happen, that somebody was going to fire a nuke. And I was in the UK and we had nuclear missiles, so we'd just be dead. And it wasn't that I thought that was going to happen, I knew it. And then it wasn't until many years later that I realized, well, guess what? I was wrong.
And you worried for nothing, in a way.
Well,
yes and no.
yeah,
Yes and
but
no. It's a worry, but
yes,
it was your reality.
What it taught me was the humility to understand that I do not know what's going to happen in the future. In fact, nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. We can have pretty good models and predictions, and we should pay attention to them, but none of us actually knows what's going to happen in the future because we can't. And once you accept that, it's easier to work to be optimistic. And that's hard work, but I do think I've become a more useful human being by choosing to be optimistic instead of being the crushing pessimist and cynic that I was as a young man.
Oh yeah, I was an optimist. I was a a cockeyed optimist when I was younger, and
Yep.
I think I've become Archie Bunker. It's like I've gone from Gloria to and Michael to I got a bit of Edith in me, of course. But yes, yes, yeah. But it's true though. But you get older, and then you say, "I mean, my parents were right." you know.
I know, but for me, and I talk with my wife a lot about this.
Yeah.
And she sees my point, but she doesn't necessarily agree with it, and that's fine. Again, I don't,
Well,
it's
to each his own. We all have a mission.
yeah,
We're all here for a different reason, and
I think so.
and we all have something we have to learn and do, and all of that kind of thing. And if we put our nose to our own grindstone and not to everyone else's, and
Yes.
and focus on what we're here to do, might be better.
Well, for sure. But I know that. I mean, going back to that, the world just was that thing. It was the
Yeah.
people I love are struggling sometimes because they're pushing against reality because they don't want reality to be that way. And to me, it's sort of like you're forever in struggle. You're forever feeling beaten. And the only way to move forward is to accept what is, even if it's crap, and then go, okay, this is what is. Where do I go from here?
Yeah, it's true. And sometimes when you're thinking about all the crap, you attract more crap to yourself. Because that's how you see you don't see the world because the world is it is a beautiful place. It was basically, look where you're living. Look where I'm living here in Toronto. I look at the lake. I look at at our beautiful. We got a beautiful city, lots of greenery. We're not.
Yeah.
We don't have whales, but we have. I think we got carp, pike in the lake, but they're pretty big. But depends. But no, it's just that look for the beauty in life. Try to do it, and yet be cognizant, be aware of what's going on around, because obviously that's going to affect us too. But at the same time, what can we really do? We can vote. We can do this. We can do that. We can. There are things that we can do, and the things we can't. Change.
And my experience for me was that I do more good when I force myself to be optimistic than when I was a devout pessimist. Because when you're a devout pessimist, what's the point? Whereas when you know that you don't know the future, so therefore the future might be better, it's worth working for a future that might be better.
Well, on my bathroom mirror, I have "This too shall pass" on it, because if I don't look at that every day, I can get pretty miserable.
Yes, I understand.
I become curmudgeon-y and crotchety and get my grass. It's true though. It's easy. It's easy to slide into that, and that's why I love doing what I do here. And because I get great artists on like you, sharing your music, sharing your thoughts, your wisdom, and this is a big help for people to hear this kind of music and hear what you have to say. Everyone has a different experience of things, and So we're coming up to the end of the program, but not too far off. Do you have anything else you want to? We'll play the last song, but that you sent me. But is there anything, like, you've shared so much wisdom, and I really appreciate that. But geez, I just want to think what I want to ask you. It's not much, because you've shared pretty much everything that I really found just brilliant about who you are and where your music is coming from. You are working on another album. It's coming out in 2025. Let's talk about that. That's a good idea.
Okay.
That's
thank you.
the Genes for Violence, right? No, that's
yes.
Yes.
It is the Genes for Violence. I had considered having that track played on with you, but
it's not released
put out so
yet.
many songs, it's really difficult to know what. The Genes for Violence, it is still in the planning stage. At the end of last year, I looked at my efforts to chase streams on the streaming services and thought, is this even worth my brain power and stuff, and maybe I shouldn't. So I don't know. I will be putting out a CD because I'm told there are still people that have CD players and actually want physical product.
That's amazing.
So
Well, for a while anyway, until the
yeah,
CD
yeah,
players break and they
yeah.
can't buy another one unless they go to Value Village. But yes, I hear you.
Yes, but the genes for violence, that was an idea that came from my reading and from a podcast
Oh, okay.
by a neuroscientist called David Eagleman, who
Mm-hmm.
has, I believe, the #1 science podcast in the US or in North America called Inner Cosmos, which I'm because I was such a pessimist and such a cynic, and I managed with help with reading, listening,
Mm-hmm.
meeting people, talking to shift my mindset and actually become somebody who chose to be an optimist, even when it's really, really difficult
Oh,
to be
yeah.
an optimist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fascinated by the human brain.
It's
How we
amazing
can,
since they've mapped the genome and now they know about neuroplasticity. It's amazing what
yes,
we can do. It's not a
yeah,
static. It's not static.
no, the fact is we can with effort change who we are if the
Uh-huh.
who we are is causing us pain, and
Mm-hmm.
particularly my cynicism and negativity was causing pain to people around me, and and I was getting sick of myself, quite frankly. So yeah, to be able to learn to think in different patterns and different ways. So that leads me to David Eagleman, this wonderful neuroscientist who makes the brain and how it works, or
Yeah.
how we start to understand it works, really accessible. And in one of his books, he said they found the genes for violence. And I
Mm.
thought, wow, that's fascinating. And from that, obviously, the idea for the song came. And I'm going to think, and he starts off the chapter, and he's not telling you what they are. And it's not until the end that he wraps up. And I thought, well, that's the way the song will work. And it turns out that the genes for violence, unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
are the Y chromosome. Um,
Well,
that
yeah.
the truth is that the vast majority of people who commit violence are men, and it's having the Y chromosome seems to have something to do with it. Now he was treading carefully, and I want to try and tread carefully around that. And it's just that it's not something that is often spoken about. I know it is by a lot of people, particularly women, probably,
Well,
but
yeah, but not in a correct, not
it's
in
a
a
real
correct way,
thing.
but not in a correct way, though, Philip. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about a bunch of men being these, the men and everything. Because men
No.
and women, we each have our place in society. And that also goes with the X and Y chromosomes. Y
Yep.
chromosomes, yes, of course, men may be more violent and aggressive because they had to be the hunters, and the women
Yes.
had to stay and be the nurturers. Yes, and women
Yes.
actually have our eyes are set a little bit farther apart. Our peripheral vision is more. It's a lot better than men's because we have to basically have eyes in the back of our heads if we're alone in
Yes.
some situation where we're cooking and gathering and taking care of children and whatever. Whereas men, all they had to do is have it right in front of them to throw the spear or whatever
Yeah.
to kill the animal. So of course it's natural for a man to be
Yes.
that way. There's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is with our society, we've got these namby-pamby kind of homogenized roles. Everyone's the same. No, we're not the same. I am going to trounce all over this because I don't care. But
I know that's
because,
okay.
no, but
I,
it's nothing wrong
I'm,
with that. But the thing is, so if we can look at that and say, okay, so how can we channel that
yes.
aggression or whatever? How with societal changes that we have, because you're not out there hunter gathering, and you're not, you don't have to kill the buffalo or whatever the heck it is, or even the little rabbit, whatever you're taking home.
Yes.
But how do we do this? How can we help people? That's
Yeah.
the crux of the matter,
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
do we do this?
And that fundamentally we are still animals.
Of course
We
we
are
are.
extremely intelligent animals, but
Mhm.
we are still animals, and there's elements to our thinking and our actions that are often beyond our understanding and sometimes beyond our control.
Exactly. And the veneer of society, of civilization, is very thin. You saw it when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans,
Mm.
how quickly that society devolved. It was amazing, you know?
Yeah.
Rape, killing, stealing, police leaving their posts because, you know, all kinds of things happened. People just devolved into, you know, survival mode and what they needed to do for themselves to get through this. It was terrible. That whole thing should be studied by, I'm sure it has been studied by psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, whatever, scientists, because it was an amazing situation, awful situation where people just went down to very base instincts. They're not very, we're very thin veneer society.
Yeah. I think that the idea of the survival of the fittest, though, is simplistic. I think that one thing that I hold to is that actually humans are helpful to one another by design. It actually suits us.
But we're social beings. We are social.
And we do rely on one another. So we can't survive individually. It doesn't really matter how good you think you are at hunting, unless you know how to dig stuff out of the ground and smelt it and turn it into a spear, or to make a knife so that you can make a spear. Yeah, we can't survive individually. We all need each other,
of course,
and so we have to find a way of making this work.
Absolutely. And you find out best when you're in a crisis, just who those
Yes.
people are that you can rely on, and who the ones who turn into this place into a Mad Max world, you know, like it's kind of like that kind of thing. 2025 is going to be a I think it's going to be a traumatic year for many people. It's going to be a lot of changes worldwide, but I'm hoping, I am praying that it's all going to turn out okay. You know, I do believe that, although we can't see the future, but I do trust that things are going to work out. AI, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. We're going to have lots of discoveries, lots of great things happening. But we're at a place right now, we're in a huge transition on the planet with our technology. If you look back at 1925 to 2025, what was happening in 1925, 100 years ago, when you look at technology, just look there in that year, you know, just what was happening with radio, whatever, all kinds of things in technology.
Yep.
And people were having to let go of the old to go into the new. That's where we are now. That's exactly where we are now. And we are about to be jettisoned into a world we never thought possible.
And I would say if people feel sort of lost or not really knowing what they could or should do, focus locally. Do things in your own community.
I agree.
Do things in your own town and city. You may hate politics, but local politics it needs people. It needs real people to step up and do stuff. So
yes, and
whatever
also
that is.
charitable things, or you know, like
Yes.
you want to, you know, like even if you're just donating to the food bank or whatever it is, help, just do something.
Yes, do the things you can do, and the stuff you can do is pretty much local. The stuff national and international, most of us have zero control over.
No, but in your own little corner of the world, right, starting with ourselves. Yeah, I completely agree. So I guess we're going to play that last song, which is going to be it's going to be, so the big release is January 20th, and it's okay for me to play this before the release. It's okay.
And remind me which song I sent you, because the titles.
The know-it-alls, the know-it-alls.
The know-it-alls, of course.
The know-it-alls.
Of course.
But we were talking about how we knew it all when we were young, but some people, we've got a lot of know-it-alls in the world, absolutely.
Yeah, and I used to be one of them, for sure.
Me too. Even now, I can be pretty arrogant. I'm a Leo, you know. I got my own spotlight. So I can say I'm right and I may be wrong, but I'll admit it.
As my father used to say, I was wrong once, but I thought I was wrong once, but I was mistaken.
I like that. Oh, dear. Well, it's good to admit to it. But yes, it's the know-it-alls. So, hello?
Hello?
Oh, you're there. Oh, you thought I was going to play it all of a sudden. Yeah, okay. Well, I can do that. I can absolutely do. No, that's all right. So it's called the know-it-alls. Oh, Philip Solman. Here we are. The English Assassin wants me to play it. Here it is. The know-it-alls. And here it is. It's going to be released on January 20th, a most auspicious day for the world. Here it is.
Yes.
right. It's always obvious in hindsight. We are so sure we know it all, don't need to know no more. The know-it-alls, what they know is nothing. The know-it-alls, what they know is nothing. When I was young, I knew it all was never wrong. No, never ever wrong. As my sight fades, I see the world in different shades of grey. It makes a difference how you see, in shades of grey or binary. A heart that's closed or open wide, till you have found humility. It makes a difference how you see, in shades of grey or binary. The know-it-alls, what they know is nothing. 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 Men who know it all, they never lose, they only ever win. They tell big lies, the harm they cause for all should be no surprise. It makes a difference who you hear, a voice of love, a voice of fear, words that unite, words that divide. You wanna hug or pick a side. It makes a difference how you see, in shades of grey or binary. The know-it-alls, what they know is nothing. 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 They know nothing.
Yeah, it's the English assassin. You're here, Philip Solman. I really that we've had a really meaningful conversation today, and I really appreciate the music and everything you've had to say today. It's really
Thank you,
meaningful.
Joyce.
It's been good, and I hope there's a couple of I'm 69, I'm going to be 70 this year, and it's like, yeah, and you shared your 60, and we have something to give, and that's the thing, the ageism thing, the music that comes through us. Do you, just before we leave, I meant to ask you this earlier, do you find the music comes through you, or do you feel like it sort of channeled down into you, like just how does your music happen?
Yeah, certainly some of it. Some of it I listen to it afterwards, and I go, "Where did that come from?" So yes, some of it. I mean, there is a song that I wrote a long time ago, hasn't been released, might be some point, that I remember I got in a dream. I woke up and this song was in my head complete, and I sat for the rest of the day and just recorded it. This was actually when I didn't live with Deborah, so it was okay. I don't think I had breakfast. I don't think I showered. I just did the song.
Yeah.
And then I had to ask lots of people, is this somebody else's song? Did I steal the melody? Because, you can't help but think that. And people said, no, that doesn't sound like anything else. So some songs, yeah, they come from somewhere. I don't know whether it's some external thing or whether it's just the parts of your brain that generally you don't have access to, because most of it we don't. And maybe it's just an idea that bubbles up from somewhere for some reason. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, my other show is UFO and paranormal. So I do tend to have people predict the future on my programs and different things, and we do talk about all this. I was just wondering because I think you're an intuitive songwriter, and that I really do believe that, and I do think you're being given some very important messages to impart to the world. So I want to thank you.
Yeah, and I'm not going to claim them as my own. So yeah, they're coming from somewhere that's not me for sure.
That's what I thought. Oh, there you go. So do I put this on the UFO and paranormal show or to the arts and entertainment?
I think we'll stick with arts and entertainment.
Okay, no problem. Okay. Will do. So thank you, Philip Solman and the English Assassin. Oh, there we go. Great name. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Joyce Aldridge Show. And we'll just play the intro, and Bob's your uncle. And we'll come back with more great music like the English Assassin. And you're always welcome back here on the program.
Thank you, Joyce. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. Thank you.
You are listening to the Joyce Aldridge Show from Toronto, Canada, Arts and Entertainment Edition.